Hello everyone, theswiftscripter here, and welcome back to the second part of the Unity tutorial series that I'm making. So before we get started, I recommend watching the previous video to get like a quick overview of Unity and all these different buttons that you're seeing here right now. But what this video is just going to be about are the game objects in the scene and components. I usually recommend watching the previous video to get an understanding if you're new to all this Unity and game development stuff. But if you're not here for that, and if you're here to continue, or if you've already seen that previous video, then let's get started. Firstly, let's talk about game objects. Everything you see in Unity in this scene view are considered game objects, meaning this light here is a game object, this camera here is a game object, and they correspond to all the objects in this hierarchy. So this is the main camera, which is considered a game object. This is also considered a game object. So if you want to add another game object, then right click on the hierarchy, then go to 3D object, and we'll start with a cube for now because I want to show you some basics of Unity physics and interactability with other game objects. So let's click on cube. And as you can see, it is now in our scene view. When you go to the inspector tab, there are several things here that look really scary, but it's really easy to understand once you get it. This transform here, if you look at it, it says position, rotation, and scale. So obviously, okay, what's that gonna stand for? Take a guess. Exactly. I don't know what you said, but it literally stands for what it says, okay? Position, it's gonna move it around in the world space. Rotation, you can rotate it. You can click on the letter, or you can go on this tab right here, rotate it like this. For now, I'm gonna center it and give you a demonstration of what this all does. So usually it's a good idea to zero out all of this and keep the scale to 1, because if you do 0 on this, you're not gonna see anything, right? So just leave it at 1 for the scale, but keep the rotation and position the same. So you can use this move tool to move the game object around. So you can move it any way like this. Move it on the z-axis by pressing the blue arrow. Move it on the x-axis by pressing the red arrow. And you can move it on the y-axis by pressing this green arrow. Same applies to scaling and rotation. Do this. Scale is like this. You can also scale it on all its axes by pressing the center white cube. And yeah, that's basically a quick rundown of the transform. And you can edit this even in the code, which I'll show later in a script you can make. Now let's go over this property. This you do not need to worry about, but this is something you may need to worry about. So what this basically does is show this game object in the scene view and game view. So this check mark here basically tells us if it's enabled or not. So if we disable it, then we don't see anything. But if we click on the cube again in the hierarchy view, we can check it again and it pops right back up. So if we were to disable it and press play in the game view, nothing's here, but you can press the check mark again to enable it. Now it's here again. So the thing about this checking and editing things during play mode, this won't actually be saved when you don't play the game, when you stop the game. So you'll have to make sure all your changes are made before you press the play button. So that's a quick tip. So going back to the scene view, we also have a box collider. What this basically does is basically make it be able to interact with other game objects. I'll demonstrate this later by adding another game object in the scene. But for now, I'm going to go over another really important component called the rigid body. So make sure it's not 2D because you're in a 3D game. Once you press this, this actually adds physics to this entire object. It adds mass and gravity to it. So and as you can see, you can enable or disable this use gravity section right here. So for now, let's press play and see how it looks. As you can see, it falls, but let's unpause it and uncheck this. See, I mean, that's common sense. If you press this, there's actually a way to just check if it just keeps pausing and then falling again. That's kind of fun thing to play around with. But anyways, I'm going to show you this game object interacting with another game object because of this box collider. Now, before I go into that, there's something you need to know about the box collider. So this green outline you see over here, I'm going to disable the mesh render. This green outline is basically its collider. It's basically what enables its collision with other game objects. So if we were to and we can edit this collider by pressing this and moving it around like this. For now, I'm gonna undo that because I want to demonstrate to you how it looks with another game object. So another game object I'm gonna add is a plane, usually a useful game object if you want to make a ground. So I'm gonna actually move this a little down right here so I can demonstrate to you it falling and then colliding with this. And you have to make sure this other game object also has a collider. For now, there's a mesh collider here. I don't use mesh collider that often, but if you really need to, there's a way you can use it, and I'll show that in another video. But for now, I'll just show you how it looks. As you can see, it just fell. Now, let me show you something else you can do with the collider. Now, I'm gonna edit this box collider, make this bottom one go much longer than it actually is, be much longer than the actual cube. You can edit it by pressing this, as I said. So now look what happens. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. This thing is not gonna actually, it's gonna look like this game object stuck in the air, but see? But it's really the collider that's doing this job. So that's why the collider is really important. You can also have invisible walls if you remove this mesh collider, and if you want to have like a player go through something, but then, oh no, they have to defeat this boss. Okay, this invisible wall will still be there until I defeat this boss. So, you know, something like that. Just a quick tip for games you want to make. I'm going to enable this once again and then undo this entire collider. So now that's just a quick rundown of the main game object components we'll be using. I'll be showing you in the next video how to use scripting to edit these game object components, as well as the game objects themselves. But yeah, thank you guys so much for staying and watching all this nonsense, me yapping and all that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. That's pretty much it. Bye.